the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for a moment of silence, if we could remain standing for a minute, I'd like everyone to just keep the prayer. Obviously, we had another school shooting in Georgia and then an incident up in Harford County, which is getting awful close to home. Everybody keep the survivors and the people involved in their prayers. And hopefully nothing like that ever happens around here. Thank you very much. As everyone knows, time is allotted at the end of each meeting for the commissioners to receive comments from the public. First of all, we have a list of consent items. And first of all, we have our regular session minutes dated August the 27th, 2024. We have our liquor minutes dated August the 27th, 2024. We have our closed session minutes dated August the 27th, 2024. We have Roland Shepard, Acting Director of Operations, Kent County Detention Center, FY 2025 Performance Incentive Grant Fund for the Medication Assisted Treatment Program. We have Mr. Pete Landon, Director, Office of Emergency Services, FY 2025 Kent County Law Enforcement Accountability Initiative Grant. Jillian Coleman, who is our Director of Parks and Recreation, Smoking, Vaping, Community Outreach Mini Grants. And then again, Ms. Jillian Coleman, Director of Parks and Recreation for Weed Control with Turner's Creek Farmland. And these are just items that are, all they need is an approval that we've spoke about and feel confident that all we need to do is approval. So, for that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve all 7 of the consent items as presented.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have a special Class C license, the Kent Cultural Alliance for a beer, wine, and liquor dated September 28th, 2024. This is because it's an application for alcohol, it's in need of a public hearing, and we're going to allow today to be that public hearing. So anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application, please feel free to do so at this time. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license application for Kent Cultural Alliance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Now I'm going to turn it over to our county attorney, Thomas Yeager, for public hearing protocols, and then we have a small public hearing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. You have one item today for public hearing. This is on Code Home Rule Bill number 7, 2024. I will read the notice into the record. It's somewhat lengthy, and then I will sum it up in a 1 or 2 sentence summation as to what this bill does. This is Code Home Rule number 7, 2024, introduced by Ronald H. Fithian, President of the Board of County Commissioners for Kent County, Maryland. An act to amend Chapter 222, zoning, of the Code of Public Local Laws of Kent County, Maryland, also known as the Kent County Land Use Ordinance, to address self-storage centers as a permitted use in the industrial district by A, amending Article 5 District Regulations, Section 15, Industrial District, Section 15.2, Permitted Principal Uses and Structures, by adding a new number 20 as follows. Self-storage centers provided the front facade of the center and any other facade visible from adjoining public roads reflect the scale, material, and design features common to residential or historic structures in the county. Self-storage centers are subject to site plan review. B, by amending Article 5, District Regulations, Section 11, Commercial, Section 11.2, Permitted Principal Uses and Structures, by replacing number 6 with self-storage centers provided the front facade of the center and any other facade visible from adjoining public roads reflect the scale, materials, and design features common to residential or historic structures in the county. Self-storage centers are subject to site plan review. And C, by including a certain non-codified provision to instruct county staff to make similar changes in the upcoming readoption of the land use ordinance. Public hearing will be held on September 10th, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, R. Clayton Mitchell Jr., Kent County Government Center, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland. The agenda for the meeting will be published online 24 hours in advance of the meeting at kentcounty.com/commissioners/meeting-agenda. Citizens are encouraged to participate in the public hearing process. If you require communication assistance, please contact the County Commissioner's Office at 410-778-4600 and press 4, or visit Maryland Relay at mdrelay.org no later than noon on Friday, September 6, 2024. A complete copy of the proposed legislative bill is available in the Commissioner's Office, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on the county's website at kentcounty.com/commissioners/draft-legislation. This is by order of the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Saunders and Blackiston Clerk. This was published in the Kent County News on August 22nd and again on August 29th. And briefly, what this is, it's a zoning text amendment. We allow self-storage centers in other zoning districts. Currently, they're not allowed in the industrial district, and this text amendment adds self-storage centers to the uses that are allowed in the industrial district. Madam Clerk, has anybody signed up to testify?
Let me check.
Okay, if no one has signed up to testify, I will, with your permission, dispense with reading the formal procedures, and we would just call Mr. Tracy from Planning and Zoning.
No one signed.
Okay. So with that, we'll have Mr. Tracy come forward to give staff report, and then after Mr. Tracy has spoken, if anybody wishes to speak, even if you haven't signed up already, just raise your hand and the commissioners will recognize you. Mr. Tracy.
Thank you. My name is Rob Tracy. I'm an associate planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. I'm here today to talk about a text amendment number 7, 2024. This text amendment would add self-storage units to the industrial zoning district. Self-storage units are already an existing use in the village, intense village and commercial zoning district. So this text amendment would simply add that use to the industrial zoning district. The Planning Commission met on July 11th, and included in your packet is a letter from that body. They're recommending a favorable recommendation, and I can go more in depth if you have any particular questions in regard to the legislation.
Thank you. As Tom pointed out, do we have any questions?
They're not very good.
As our attorney pointed out, anyone that would like to speak at this public hearing, it's basically the reason we're having to go through this process. There's obviously industrial zone land allows for a whole host of things to take place, but to list each one of them, it would take forever, and so this is just one that we have to approve or disapprove.
Yes, sir, and I should add that the comprehensive plan is supportive of this initiative, and it would supporting existing businesses and providing for more diversity in the size, number, and type of businesses. So the argument could be made that this text amendment would be consistent with the Kent County comprehensive plan.
Well, thank you. And Tom, you correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just our public hearing. We will allow people to comment, or we'll receive written comments until this Friday at the close of business. and then we'll have another date where we actually vote on it.
That's correct. You will not be voting today, and the record is open until Friday. So
Very
anybody thinks of something they'd like to add or to say, if you send that in writing to the commissioners by Friday, you will be heard.
Then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing regarding Code Home Rule Bill 7, 2024.
And I need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tracy. And we have a recognition today, Department of Human Services, Kent County Department of Social Services. And before I go any further, I know we have Ms. Shelley Neal Edwards in the audience. Shelley, you want to come up first and if you want to start us off, and
Sure, thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Marty Lively has been working with us in the Department of Social Services for many years, and we'd like to recognize her. She's retiring, thank goodness for her, all the work that she's done, and we just are very appreciative of everything she's done for Kent County and our adult services, and she's oversees the adult protective services, also the adult guardianship, and has worked really hard. She's put her heart and soul into everything she's done here for Kent County and for our most vulnerable population with adult services. So,
Well, why don't you introduce her and bring her up
sure.
with you?
Ms. Marty Lively. We've been so thankful for her, and I know Tom knows her very well as well. Mr. Yeager does.
Yes, I have a few things to say.
Okay, great,
As you would
great.
expect.
He's getting paid by the hour.
So I'm going to talk real slow.
But this is Miss Lively, and we have been so gracious for everything she's done, and she's been a wonderful worker. We wish her the best in her next adventures in life. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Lively, if you have anything you'd like to say, we'd love to hear from you. If not,
I just want to say thank you.
well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
A woman of few words.
Normally, one of the commissioners we have a certificate of appreciation, and normally one of the commissioners would read it. But as you pointed out, Shelley, Tom has had a lot of time to work with Ms. Lively, and we're going to allow him to do the honors.
Great.
And then afterwards, we'll have a picture taken if you'd like.
Thank you, yes.
Tom, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a certificate of appreciation. This is to certify that Margaret Lively, and I will say I've worked with Marty for a number of years before realizing that her first name is actually Margaret. Everybody, who is Margaret Lively?
I know, right?
Everybody knows her as Marty. Margaret Lively is hereby recognized for 26 years of service as a family service caseworker in the Department of Human Services, Kent County Department of Social Services. Such commitment and loyalty are admired and well respected by all those who have had the honor of working with her. We, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, thank you for your continued devotion, dedication, and public service to Kent County and the community. And this is signed by the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, and John F. Price, Member.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that I've had the privilege of working with Ms. Lively for over 25 years when I was the attorney for the Department of Social Services. And I can tell you that she is one of the most dedicated and caring people that I've ever worked with. Marty primarily provides services to our disabled, vulnerable, and mentally challenged adults, a group that is often forgotten and overlooked. Most of these individuals have no family, or they do not have family that is willing or able to care for them. And Marty has always made sure that these individuals had dignity and proper care. Not only did she stay on top of things with the caregivers and the placements, but she also built a rapport with the disabled adults in her caseload. And the individuals that she served had a variety of disabilities. Some were mildly impaired, others were nonverbal. And Marty gave her time and her expertise to all of them. And she treated all with kindness and respect. And you could see that in how the individuals that she served and she worked with trusted her. And they looked forward to seeing her. You could see that when, in my observations of Marty with the disabled adults. And as you may know, many disabled adults can become agitated very quickly. And Marty always had the patience to properly handle these situations and to make sure that those in her care were as comfortable as possible. And that's not an easy job. And Marty did it with dedication and caring and enthusiasm. Nobody had to tell Marty to do these things. She just, as a good person, she just did them, and she always went the extra mile. She's certainly been a great asset to Kent County, the citizens of the county, and the Department of Social Services, and I just would personally like to wish her the best in her retirement or whatever her next endeavor is. But thank you very much,
you.
Marty, for all your years of dedicated service.
Thank you, Tom.
And you can see how well she's loved, because we have so many people that really are going to miss her and wish her the best.
Thank you.
And if we'd like to have a picture, and Tom, you join us in the picture if you'd like.
I'll hand this to you, Commissioner.
Ladies, flowers up here.
We'll put the pretty people in the front here.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Marty, come up front.
Okay, everybody put on your best smile. James put pre-K together. Yes, Tom, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we also have, on our agenda up next, we have three different proclamations, and we'll take them in order. First is Mr. Harry Kettner, Captain of Kent County Sheriff's Office, and Andy Meehan from the Chestertown Rotary Club, and it's entitled Kent Goes Purple.
I think we actually have the
As you
sheriff
can
here.
see, I'm dressed appropriately.
Yes, thank you, President.
This was we all received, the group of commissioners
Yeah,
that I served with, the first year you started that, we all got these shirts.
2018.
Well, that's how old this shirt is.
That's right. Looks great. Wears well.
Still fit.
I don't know if Sheriff's gonna come up.
Some of us didn't have purple shirts, so.
Yeah, we,
right, well,
you're
that-
close as we did with the top. Close as we did with the top.
Of course, Sheriff Price was, leading the charge when we started Kent Goes Purple.
Andy, stop.
Sheriff-
Don't build him up anymore. We have to talk about that all the time.
It was a team effort.
It was.
Didn't he have to get his hair cut or
So in
something
any event,
like that?
my name is Andrew Meehan, and of course, everybody knows Sheriff Hickman, and on behalf of Kent Goes Purple, we want to thank you, the county commissioners, for, having this proclamation, because it really underscores the importance of our message of raising awareness of the dangers of substance abuse, especially among the county's children and students. On behalf of Chestertown Rotary Club, which is who I represent, I want to thank the Sheriff's Office and also the Kent County Health Department's Office of Prevention, led by Annette Duckery. Annette is a huge part of this. She couldn't be here today, but she's a big part of our team. Just this past Sunday, we held our 5K Color Fun Run at Wilmer Park in our Purple Jamboree. It was beautiful weather, like about 200 very enthusiastic participants, vendors, and volunteers. Our motto is raising awareness together, and we certainly did that on Sunday. Throughout the month of September, we've continued doing our messaging through local media outlets and our Facebook page, which really gets a lot of hits, a lot of views, a lot of shares. So it's really, I think it's working. Going forward, we have a speaker coming to the high school and the middle school in the middle of the month, and then we'll continue our messaging throughout the year. So again, thank you for having us, and again, raising the importance of this very important issue.
Well, first of all, on behalf of the commissioners, we'd like to thank you for all your efforts. It's such an important issue. It's affecting people all over the country. Few people have not had issues throughout within their families or friends with drug addiction. It's certainly an important message that you're sending. And we have prepared a proclamation, and former Sheriff Price, who was instrumental in the beginning of this, will read that.
Kent County, Maryland proclamation, Kent Goes Purple, September 2024. Whereas Kent Goes Purple is a substance abuse awareness and prevention initiative sponsored by the Kent County Sheriff's Office, the Chestertown Rotary Club, and the Kent County Behavioral Health Prevention Office, and created to engage our community and youth to stand up against substance abuse. And whereas Kent Goes Purple focuses on community engagement activities, including educational messages, a 5K Color Fun Run Walk, a community jamboree, and an educational speaker in our middle and high school. And whereas the project is supported by many local businesses, resources, treatment centers, support groups, 3 24-hour drop boxes to dispose of unused prescription and non-prescription medications, and our Kent County Public Schools. And whereas Kent Goes Purple encourages everyone to get the facts, get involved, get talking, and join the movement. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim September 2024 as Kent Goes Purple in Kent County, and encourage all citizens to recognize that many of our community members are struggling with addiction. We also call upon government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Kent County to recommit to our community to increasing awareness and understanding of addiction. Together, the community and committed service providers in our region can positively impact addiction and to help raise awareness of opiate abuse, recovery, and prevention by lighting up the businesses, homes, offices, and churches of Kent County with purple during September. Signed, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, John F. Price, Member, dated September 10th, 2024.
Very good.
Congratulations. No, thank you. I just noticed. I think that's one model shirt.
Got it. Thank you.
The next one is Mr. Pete Landon's with us today. He is the Director of the Office of Emergency Services. Pete, and it's entitled 2024 Kent County Preparedness Month. In parentheses, start a conversation. So Pete, you want to, and we have a proclamation, but whatever you'd like to start us off with.
I'll be very quick. Since September 11th, 2001, September's been recognized as National Preparedness Month, and Kent County has joined that in the past, and I appreciate the fact that the commissioners are supporting it again this year. Office of Emergency Services, as well as the County Commissioners of Kent County, like to start a conversation. We'll make sure that we do that not only during the month of September, but throughout every year and every day. So with that, I appreciate your support and recognition.
Okay, and I have the privilege of presenting it, or reading it, Kent County, Maryland Proclamation entitled Kent County Preparedness Month, Start a Conversation, September 2024. Whereas National Preparedness Month has occurred annually in September since September the 11th, 2001, and is also recognized as Maryland Preparedness Month. And whereas Start a Conversation serves as a reminder that we must take action to plan and prepare now and throughout the year for the types of emergencies that could affect us where we live, work, and where we visit. And whereas starting a conversation today can help you and your family to take more actions to prepare. You build your preparedness at your own pace. Talk about steps you've taken to prepare and encourage others to ask questions about preparedness actions that might work for everyone. And whereas the Kent County Office of Emergency Services encourages the residents, visitors, and businesses to plan and prepare for all hazards before they happen. This month serves as a timely reminder that emergencies can happen anywhere and anytime without advance notice. The time to prepare is before a disaster happens. And whereas all residents of Kent County, Maryland are urged to plan ahead for disasters by participating in neighborhood preparedness activities, registering their contact information in the Everbridge mass notification system, and visiting the county's preparedness campaign on social media outlets. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, do hereby support the nation and state in proclaiming September 2024 as Kent Preparedness Month and call on all government agencies, private organizations, businesses, and the people of Kent County to develop their own emergency preparedness plan and work together toward creating a stronger, more resilient community. Signed, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, John F. Price, Member, and is dated September the 10th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is only one of the projects that our emergency planner, Brian Pearsall, works on, and we welcome anybody that's interested in anything that emergency services do. Contact us, and we can help you get a plan started.
Do you like to have a picture?
Nah, I don't think we
Okay.
need to do that.
While you're here, I spoke to you earlier before the meeting, and obviously these school shootings are of a big deal. They're a very important issue, and we all think about that from time to time. Due to the fact that you're head of the Office of Emergency Services, I'd like for you to put together, if my colleagues agree, and I'm sure they would, put a team together to just take a second look at our 5 schools.
I welcome that, and I have to let you know, with the Board of Education, we already have our school security team, and that includes the Sheriff's Office, Board of Education, and King County Office of Emergency Services. But we'll certainly get that team together and get a security assessment back to you so we can report the status of our schools and the security.
I mean, as this proclamation points out, you want to prepare ahead of time. So, look, our schools are probably in good shape as far as security, but it doesn't hurt to take a second look.
I agree. We'll get back to you on that.
We'll wait for your report.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Next, we have Karen Stevens, Americanism Chair from the Chestertown Elks Lodge, number 2474, and it's National Patriotism Week Proclamation, September the 9th through the 15th, 2024. Karen, you introduce your guest that's with you.
Hi, I'm Laurie Esselton. We're part of the Americanism Committee for the Elks Lodge,
You sure are.
which she's the head of.
And we are, the Elks National Patriotism Week is held every year during 9/11. So this year it's September 9th through the 15th. So we put a banner out on Route 20 out in front of the lodge. So hopefully people see it, maybe they'll know and remember. We're gonna have a remember and honor ceremony on Sunday to remember 9/11, those that lost their life, those that lost their family members, and we're gonna honor first responders and veterans because freedom is not free. And they've done a lot for us, so, Elks care, Elks share, and that's about all I have to say. I thank you very much for doing the proclamation.
Very good. And Commissioner Nickerson is going to read that proclamation.
I am going to read that proclamation, but what time Sunday, just for the people that are listening?
Sure, Sunday, starts at 12 noon, and then immediately following, we're having lunch and celebrating patriotism.
Very good, thank you so much. All right, this is Kent County, Maryland Proclamation, Patriotism Week, September 9th through the 15th, 2024. Whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, through its Constitution, is a patriotic order. And whereas the order promotes the ideals that the citizens of this nation live in freedom, won through the great sacrifices and many tribulations that have provided the foundation for a free, prosperous, and independent life. And whereas we realize that each generation must work to maintain this freedom, otherwise, through carelessness or indifference, the rights and liberties enjoyed may vanish. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize this freedom and honor the nation that provides it. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, join in the nation and hereby proclaim September 9th through the 15th, 2024, as Patriotism Week in Kent County, and recognize and acknowledge the importance of bringing awareness to our community. Signed, the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, and John F. Price, Member.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Karen will have a photo. And all the other members that want to join in, please do so.
Thank you. Joe, Steve, somebody come over here if you need to. Squeeze in. Can I get one?
Yes.
Wait, can you stay 1 second, because I can. Hopefully I can do this quick, because it's never quick for me. And that should be
Excellent.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me get one more. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we have we'll get started on our appointments. I guess it says, again, Harry Kettner, captain, but instead we have our sheriff, Dennis Hickman.
I know you guys like Harry, but
I was gonna say,
unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, so.
Sheriff, I only read what's in front of me, so.
Well, as one member up there might know, the sheriff's job's very busy, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it, but luckily I'm here today, so. So this is, I just go ahead and start?
Yes.
Okay, this is the PAC grant from the Governor's Office of, what did they change it?
Police Accountability, Community and Transparency
Yeah,
Grant
they
Program.
changed their name
Yeah.
again. They had a whole bunch of things there. So there you go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So this is a grant of which we've applied for in the past. The monetary situation in the state has changed a little bit, and we had originally applied for the entire amount. And what we're seeing a lot out of the state now is that people aren't getting that entire amount. So what is this for? This is for cameras that go inside the vehicle. So of course, everyone's wearing the body cameras, but they also have cameras that go in the vehicle. And as you can imagine, you know, the body cameras aren't going to capture something that's going on, whether it be with a chase type, where we're chasing someone, or for priority going to a call, something of that nature. So those cameras in the car capture all of those things that occur there. And all of these things are quite expensive. So we applied for the grant, asking for the entire amount, which actually would have been $53,198.40, and the governor's office gave us $35. So this particular camera system, which goes along the same Axon platform that correlates with the body cameras and everything else, they have 5-year contracts. What we did was had it moved around, so the initial $35,000 would pay part of year one, but it would also pay a lot of the contract for the 5 years. And it does the remaining balance for the next 4 years is $18,198.40. So different a little bit from what we've come to in front of you in the past. In the past, we've been able to apply for grants and get the entire amount. This time, we were not able to get the entire amount. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to apply for it again next year and hopefully be able to pay for the remaining amount. But that's also remains to be seen, because as we're getting near the end of our 5-year mark on our body cams, so we're going to have to start looking at trying to pay for those as well. So, you know, we're always, trying to make sure we try to secure the grants as best we can. And it just doesn't seem that the money's kind of slowed down a little bit in the state. And that's just not for Kent County, that's for everybody. So what I'm asking for today is an agreement from the commissioners to go ahead and allow us to accept the $35,000, which would enter us into that 5-year contract. And if you can see the documentation there, it kind of breaks it down into different payments for the next 4 years. That would either be either asking for more grant money, or it would be a budgetary item that I would add into the budget. And again, it's for cameras to go in the vehicles.
And you're also asking for the award to go to the current vendor that we buy the cameras from?
Yeah,
Axon.
we had a lot of problems with the previous vendor that we've had over the last number of years. And I will say this integrates in with the body cameras and easy evidence share, FOIA requests, all kinds of things. It makes it so much easier. But it doesn't come without expense,
And it appears that Axon's the only vendor that makes this type of equipment, what it appears.
The compatible.
Right.
To be compatible
Right.
with what we have now, yes.
And this cutting back on these grants and stuff, I think it's just more to come. You will see, we're going to see that more and more.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe tax increases or something, it seems like they're going to try to create some revenue by not spending this quite as much. So
Yeah.
I think it's more to come. So we probably got to get used to it. Anyhow, questions?
No, I would just like to thank the sheriff and his staff for pursuing the grant opportunity to help soften the cost on our taxpayers. I understand the importance of what you're asking for, and Don't have any issues with it.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the $35,000 in grant funds under the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Police for the purpose of offsetting the cost of 4 in-car cameras for the Kent County Sheriff's Office vehicles and to award the contract to Exxon, our current camera vendor.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Herb Kane, Director, Upper Shore Aging Incorporated, and Kay Bodie, President, Upper Shore Aging Board of Directors. And they're here to talk with us today about Meals on Wheels program.
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning, Commissioners. I want to begin first off by just simply thanking you for your past generosity in helping the seniors in the county. So just to give you a kind of a overview of what this is about, our current food contract with our food vendor expires the end of September. So we put it out to bid, and we received 3 bids. I was made aware of some problems that the current food vendor, the food was subpar that we were serving our seniors. We also have a group of committed volunteers who do the delivering for the Meals on Wheels program. I was told that this vendor is consistently late, where they would sit sometimes for 2.5 hours waiting for the food to arrive. Sometimes it would get there after 12 o'clock, and the seniors in the senior center are waiting for the meals. Ms. Brody is one of those dedicated volunteers. So this is what I was made aware of. So when the bids came in, the current vendor was the lowest bid, and it came in at a little over $7 a meal. The middle bid was $8.50, and it was a local vendor here on the shore. Is known for using organic food and very nutritious meals. The high bid was $10.10 a meal is what it came in as. So I was faced with the difficult decision, weighing all of these factors and making a decision to do what I felt was the right thing for our seniors by providing them with good, healthy meals in face of the elevated costs. The executive committee of the board of directors supported that decision. My director of senior centers and my physical director supported that decision, even facing having to raise this extra money. So we were thinking about, in addition to this, as we're all aware, the senior population is growing. I didn't bring any figures because I know you're well aware of that. The state had a requirement for the Meals on Wheels program that in order for a recipient to be eligible for a home delivered meal, there was criteria that they had to truly be homebound. And the reasoning behind that is that if they were not homebound, then they should come to the senior center and socialize and receive a congregate meal. The state has removed that eligibility requirement so that now any senior who wants a home delivered meal can get one. They do not have to prove that they're homebound. So we think this is going to increase, in the future, the number of clients for us to serve, as well as the growing, demographic. In light of all that, as I'm sure you're well aware with the ARP COVID funding, I was told that pre-COVID, that Upper Shore had a cap on the number of recipients for the program. And when COVID started and the availability of the ARP Title III-C funds came along, that was removed, Every senior who needed a meal received a meal. And now the deadline on those funds is September 30th. And at the bottom of the page, we put down there how those funds were used for fiscal year '23. $25,000 of that COVID money was used to go toward the cost of the food. FY '24, almost $15,000 was used. And with this year, those funds are now used up. There's no more. FY '25, there is zero ARP funding that we have available to use toward the food costs. So this shows the cost of the meals at the food bid that we accepted at $8.50 a meal. With the current number of meals, the increase in meal cost for Kent County is $47,016. So we're coming to present to you to make you aware of this increased need of what's going on. The $850 meal cost, it begins here, beginning of October. So we come to ask the commissioners if they can help us out. We're asking for $50,000 or any amount that you're willing to give us to offset this increased cost.
Any questions?
Is $50,000 going to fix the problem?
Currently, yes. Currently, yes, because I don't have the figures on how it's going to expand and grow.
The unknowns.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nobody knows at this point. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to speak for myself, but I think I'm speaking for all three of us. Our senior population deserves quality food. They deserve to be well kept as far as meals and health care and everything else. And I'm not going to stand in the way of that happening.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm going to totally support that they get what they need. I think that's part of government's role, to take care of our citizens. Albert, do you have anything that you want?
This is for the fiscal year, correct, Herbie? So it'll be.
Yes, so the food contract is a 2-year contract.
Okay.
It begins October, which is already partway into this fiscal year.
Okay.
And then it'll be the same contract for FY '25.
Okay.
So this is going to be a reoccurring.
It's going to be, it's an ongoing
Unless
expense.
there's funding.
Yes.
And I understand from reading your information that you're going to do some fundraising or try to.
We are. So we are doing some fundraising, and all of our asks for our fundraising events is for Meals on Wheels program. We're going to be seeking additional funding sources through private grants. We're going to do whatever we can, because the total increase just with the current number of meals for all 3 counties, and this is what had us so upset, we're looking at about $224,000 increase. So I'm going to we've got to go to work to communicate and try to raise money to make this happen. It's just the times, the economy, the inflation. Everyone knows when they go to the grocery store, the cost of food's going up. And the need's going to be there. More and more of our seniors are going to be struggling. And we're going to do whatever we have to do to try to meet this need on our end.
Well, we appreciate anything that you all can do, but I agree. This is it's beyond important. So I agree that we're going to do whatever we can do to help you guys.
Thank you.
We work with our budget every year, but the one place I don't think any, in fact, I know neither of the 3 of us are going to let go by the wayside is meals for our older population, and we know that's important. So these are the people that made Kent County what it is, and we certainly need to feed them. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Before I make a motion. I would like to mention to you that if for some reason later on in the year you find that you're still not where you need to be, you need to come back to us.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because none of us want anyone to go hungry.
Absolutely.
So I would like to make a motion to allocate $50,000 from the contingency fund for Upper Shore Aging for Meals on Wheels program.
I got a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for what you
And
do.
Thank you.
what I want to do is to keep you informed. I think that's part of my job, is just to communicate and let you know what's happening. So that's why I came today.
And we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Mr. Pete Landon, under our departmental appointments, we have Mr. Pete Landon, Director, Office of Emergency Services, to talk about National Opioid Settlement, third settlement.
Good morning again. Real basically, the county commissioners first approved joining the first agreement, National Opioid Settlement, on December 21st, 2021. On April 4th of last year, the second agreement, National Opioid Settlement, was joined, allowing Kent County to continue receiving allotments. On August 23rd, 2024, a letter from the State of Maryland Office of the Attorney General was received inviting Kent County to join the third National Opioid Settlement Agreement involving Kroger, who operates Harris Teeter Pharmacies in Maryland. Kent County is estimated to receive $14,028.74 in direct funds and $25,251.74 in local abatement grant funds, for a total of $39,280.49. The Office of Emergency Services will liaison with local drug and alcohol councils to recommend how the funding should be utilized in Kent County. Basically, that council will come to the county commissioners after listening to local plans who've applied for local abatement funding, and then the commissioners would make a decision on how that money was spent. I don't know if you're familiar with how much money has been received so far from the National Opioid Settlements. With this included, Kent County will have received $298,788.54 in direct and local abatement funds to fight the opioid crisis. And again, I said that the local drug and alcohol abuse council, whom you've appointed some members and other members are statutory, will meet. They've formulated, they've created bylaws, all the appointments are made, and they're actually structuring it to a point where they can get some recommendations to the commissioners for consideration in the future.
Excuse me, you mean on ways to spend it?
Ways to spend the money, yes. And there are certain guidelines that can only be used for certain things, so it's not a whole
Right.
bunch of things.
No, I hear you.
The council will, I don't want to say weed out, but they will prioritize what they think will best suit the Kent County and the community towards making a difference where opioids are concerned.
Pete, if I could just jump in, give a little bit of background. When the first round of settlements came out, there were lengthy negotiations with the Attorney General's office as to how that money should be distributed. And after that process concluded, the result was a roughly 50-50 split between the counties and the state, but not every county got the same amount. It was based on the stats that they had and how the counties were impacted and the size of the counties. With respect to the 50% going to the counties, some goes outright to the counties, others are in the form of grants, and Pete kind of discussed that, where the county would need to apply for a grant and submit a proposal and get approval from the state. When the settlement was reached with Kroger recently, the Attorney General then unilaterally proposed a 70-30 split with 70% to the state and 30% to the counties. That was vehemently opposed by the County Attorneys Association and by MACO. And not me, but some of the other county attorneys took the lead in this and negotiating with the Attorney General's office, and we made it quite clear that the counties should get the 50%, and that should be honored. Even though that was a previous Attorney General, we felt that that should be honored. So the county attorneys were successful, and the Attorney General listened and then agreed to honor the original 50% settlement. So that's just some background there, that it's a 50-50 split. Hopefully, if there are additional funds from another pharmaceutical company or a grocery store or drugstore that sold opioids, that we would continue to get the 50% split. At least that's our expectation.
Very good.
Thank you, Tom. I'd respectfully recommend and request Kent County join the third agreement of the National Opioid Settlement by approving the state's division agreement with participating local governments and the settlement participation forms with Kroger for Harris Teeter pharmacies, and to delegate that signature authority to the county administrator. There's a time constraint of, I believe, tomorrow. We have to decide whether to join or not.
Any questions? No. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the state subdivision agreement with participating local governments, the settlement participation forms with Kroger for Harris Teeter pharmacies, and to delegate signature authority to our county administrator, Ms. Heller.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Ms. Jillian Coleman is a Director of Parks and Recreation to talk to us today about Program Open Space Local Grant. Welcome.
Good morning.
During our PRAB meeting on August the 19th, the majority of our members wanted to support the application for submittal to the Program Open Space Local Grant for two fundings. I'll do the easy one first, which is no cost to the county. Each year we put in, ask for a $25,000 grant, which is, again, no cost to the county. And this helps us with our land preservation, park and recreation planning grant. So it's a professional guidance that we use for us to develop our LPPRP, and it's critical for ensuring alignment with the Department of Natural Resources program standards. The second ask to put an application in for program open space is to fund the construction of a new playground at Eadsville Park. This will be the removal of the current play structure, playground expansion, installation of benches, new equipment, borders, and filter fabric. Kent County Parks and Rec aims to secure a grant totaling $103,000 for the playground project, there will be a 10% match, which is amount of $10,300 that the county will have to pay. And there's an existing swing set that's there. It will remain there. We just put it in as of last year. So I'm here to get approval to pursue the program open space grant and allocate 10% match to the FY23 capital budget within the Department of Public Works and the Land Preservation, Parks and Recreation Planning Grant at no cost to the county.
Any questions? Don? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the submission of an application to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources for playground equipment at Eadsville Park and Planning Assistance Grant.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Jill, regarding the open space, a while back we had a local farmer who was tilling some ground up around Galena. And I've been contacted by one of the former commissioners years ago, as well as some other citizens. And I know Delegate Jacobs has also been contacted about it, and I'm not sure when they're scheduled to come in, but according to Delegate Jacobs, there are areas in the state that they do allow to be leased out for agriculture needs or use. So I guess when Delegate Jacobs and the others come in for the legislative talk, maybe we should talk about that, because right now, if you ride by the open field that once was either planted with soybeans or winter wheat or corn, it's about weeds that are growing up like maybe 4 feet tall. And it just doesn't make sense.
Because we were told by DNR
Correct.
that unequivocally it could not be tilled
Correct.
anymore. So the PRAB has, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board has taken it for action as to what should we do with it if we're not allowed to have it
Right.
tilled anymore. And so they've been working on that, and they've come up with a number of recommendations that you'll see in the near future.
I mean, I think what the Commissioner Price is saying, if there is a thought that public policy should allow it to be tilled, that could either be addressed politically through, if it's possible, for the state of Maryland directing DNR to change their policies, or through state legislation. But until that happens, we're bound by the requirements of the program and what we're told. But I do agree that you want to make the best use of the land, and it doesn't seem to make much sense to ban crop production on land that we're not currently using for other purposes. I mean, we may at some time in the future have something for it, but if that's way in the future and we're not using it now, I would agree that having it as agricultural land is not a bad thing.
It really makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
I mean, by allowing it to be farmed, you got somebody taking care of the land
Right.
until you decide to use.
It's the highest and best use.
For it. Plus, you're also feeding some
Right.
animals or people or whatever they're planting. But it just makes absolutely no sense.
Right, and that was our mindset, and that's why we had these crop leases. And we didn't know that they weren't allowed, and of course, once we found out and we were told, we had to take action. We didn't really have a choice, but it seems to me that working to have the state policy changed would be a good thing.
And maybe we'll make a note of that when we meet with the legislative representatives this coming year.
I wasn't looking for you to give me an answer. I just basically wanted to put it out to the public that we are hearing about that, particular issue, and that we are going to talk to our legislators about it.
Okay.
So,
And we meet with them sometime prior to the legislative session, and we'll make sure that this is one of the issues that we speak to them about.
They'll be in October for the CTP tour.
Right.
And I am on the advisory board as a commissioner, and I think that us knowing that moving forward, there's a lot of really neat things that I think we can do up there, but I think that it's going to happen in phases.
Correct.
Whereas it certainly would behoove, a walking trail may be the easiest thing to do there, but it would behoove us to have it maintained in some function through ag or whatever,
In the process.
Exactly.
Yep,
Exactly.
agree.
So.
We have been, as a commissioner, I've been to state years past, and to be applauded for maintaining a strong agricultural community here in Kent County, but yet we're not allowed to till a piece of open space. I just don't understand it.
Now, I was told by Department of Natural Resources, the county could till it and take the whatever we till and.
So they want the county
profit.
to go into commercial farming?
It makes
How about
sense.
that?
Makes
are you
sense.
serious?
Would you like to stand up a new department? Because if so, we'll start the estimates for
We'll
it.
The County Department of Agriculture and,
Farming.
We'll create a whole agricultural community to till about 10 acres probably, whatever.
That's about what it is, 10 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Well, we have a piece up Turner's Creek too, don't we?
Yes, we're working on that now with Washington College,
Right.
so That should be taken care of within the next, would you say, Carrie, year?
Yeah, so we've already started working on the land at Turner's Creek, and then we're actually folding in Toll's Meadow into this project as well. So we've already had some weed control taken care of and some mowing, strategic mowing in the, on the one side, on the Gilchrist side. I call it the Gilchrist side because that's where his garden is.
It's all Gilchrist up there.
Yeah. So, yes, we've already started the process, and it's all through a grant with the Natural Lands Project through Washington College, and Dan Small, who has spearheaded all of this throughout the county, and a few other counties in Maryland for habitat restoration and clean water.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you're up next, you and Carrie, and with a whole list of stuff here to talk about.
Yes, I hope everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
First up, you have the Sheriff's Department vehicles you want to speak to.
Yes, so as you may recall, back in, I believe it was June or late May of this year, ahead of the FY25 budget year, 4 vehicles were approved for order for the Sheriff's Department. At that time, we were still working through the aftermarketing, the final quotes for those components of the order. So the vehicles were ordered, they are ready for outfitting at present. This item would be request to approve contract with BAM's Hook and Hose Fire Equipment LLC to outfit the 4 vehicles. We attempted to obtain quotes from other vendors for this. There's one other vendor we've used in the past that ultimately was unwilling to give an equivalent quote. They wouldn't include labor costs in what they were providing us. Any other available vendor geographically was much further away and would require significant transportation fees for the vehicles, and also any service to the aftermarket equipment would be cost prohibitive, which is why we have ended up with a sole source quote to BAMS. The total cost for the 4 vehicles is $107,787.76. 50% of that payment is a down payment, with the remaining balance of the second half incorporated into the monthly leases. And this is consistent with our FY25 budgeting. So in summary, as I mentioned, the vehicles have already been ordered. They're ready for outfitting. We have the outfit quote within budget, and we're requesting approval to proceed.
You said they were ordered. Have we received them?
We have not received them. They are at the facility, ready to go to aftermarket.
Oh, okay.
Currently. Yes, so we would expect, I believe it's 1 to 3 months to outfit, but we would have it late fall.
Questions?
Everything's within the budget that
Yes.
was approved, okay.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the aftermarket outfitting of 4 recently ordered Sheriff's Office vehicles per the quote number 1791 from BAM's Hook and Hose Fire Equipment LLC in a total amount of $107,787.76.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it, thank you.
Thank you. The next item, I may be skipping the order, so I apologize, Sandra, if I messed that up. But I wanted to hit the more straightforward items first, and then get into the discussion and general updates. So I'll be speaking to the brush and wood debris grinding at Nicholson Landfill. As you know, it is a free service to the county public to drop off wood waste material branches at Nicholson Landfill. And annually, we process that material, basically grind it into mulch, which is then available to the public as well. This is a program that historically was funded by MES and work performed by MES. However, last year, MES cut that, the funding was cut, and MES is getting out of the business of wood grinding. So the county solicited quotes from a number of vendors to perform these services. We got 3 quotes. One was a vendor declining to bid. The low bid for this project is $5.31 a cubic yard. The second was $6 a cubic yard. Based on the quantity of wood out there now, we have set a not-to-exceed cap on the contract of $37,000. And obviously, payment will be based on the actual cubic yardage of debris at the time they start. We will make sure we are in agreement with the contractor prior to commencing the work, so there's no discussion or conflict about the actual quantities. And we are requesting that the contract with Harwood Grinding Service LLC be approved pursuant to their quote of $5.31 a cubic yard. As I mentioned, total contract value not to exceed $37,000. This is within the budget for under the budget for FY25 for this service.
It's a lot of you got a pile of stuff, though.
Yes.
That's a huge pile. Of
Yes.
course, they used to have one in Rock Hall and one someplace else, I think, been one, but now it all goes to Nicholson, so but that's a pile of debris, for sure. And I'm sensing through all these departments, especially today, we've had 2 or 3 incidents where the state is certainly not bashful when it comes to handing down expenses to the local counties to deal with. It seems like it's becoming more, happening more often than not, that things that we were used to getting paid for by somebody, by the state or somebody, it's obvious that we're now, they're pushing that down to locally. I still remember, and this is off the subject a little bit, but the one that gets me the most was when they told us that they were going to take our highway user money, which for Kent County totaled about $2.5 million. And they said, we have a little problem, so we're going to have to keep that this year, but you'll get it back just as soon as we get straight. Well, that's probably been 10 years ago or something, maybe.
Longer than that was when O'Malley was governor, so it was
That's when-
prior to 14.
Yeah, it was either 2010 or 11, I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
And the one time it forced us, I think I've raised taxes 2 times maybe, and once was a small one or something, but we had to raise taxes by 5 cents that year to make up for that $2.5 million. It was either raise the taxes or, because at one time, our highway user money used to fully fund county roads, personnel, equipment, and we even carried a small $100,000 or $200,000 fund balance at one time. It wasn't even part of the general fund because we paid for it lock, stock, and barrel out of that highway user fund. They took it away. Now we get I think we've received about 15% of it back, and they don't even talk about it anymore. That same year, we had to go to our 200 employees because it was quite a strain on us. And we actually took 2% of their pay away from them. We reduced people's pay by 2% because we needed to. But we promised them as soon as we got straight, they would get it back. We kept their promise to our employees. The state didn't keep their promise about giving us the highway money back. So now it's becoming more frequently than not that we're being asked to pick up expense. It's easy to do. You know, they have the authority to send it down here to us and we have to deal with it. But me saying it's not going to change anything, but makes me feel a little better once in a while
The highway user revenues, those were funded by the state gas tax collected
Sure.
from residents of Kent County. you know, was collected into the
Yeah,
county, and it was supposed to be
based on how
earmarked.
much gas we bought here in Kent County.
Correct.
And how many people paid
Correct.
the highway, the gas tax.
Correct, and that's what it was for. It was earmarked for that fund, but the governor at the time took the money out of that earmarked fund and used it for other projects that weren't related to transportation and depleted that fund. And it's never been brought back to where it should be ever since.
Right.
Municipalities are at about the 85%
Yeah,
restoration.
I was
but the
gonna
counties
point
are
that out,
15 to
Shelley, that
20%.
Right.
the towns lost theirs too.
Right.
But they got about 85 or so percent of it back. I guess they figured the counties, they're big boys, they can take care of themselves. We've got about 15% back, and I don't think we've gotten any increase. And, I mean, it's like it's forgotten. Nobody even talks about it anymore. Nevertheless, thanks for letting me feel better.
Of course.
That's about all that little conversation amounted to.
So Dan, this chipping that goes on, is it twice a year that the county does this, or is it once a year?
Typically, it's once a year, at the end of the summer, or early fall, so we can clear out the big pile and get ready for an influx in the fall. Given the quotes we received, there is potential if we get a large load over the fall and winter, we could do a second round at a smaller total dollar figure and total quantity. But traditionally, it's been once a year.
It looks like you're 23,000 under budget, so that,
We are, yes.
That's a good thing.
Confluence of factors, namely just the amount that it came in since the last grinding has been a little bit lower than expected. The contractor we worked with last year told us during the work that he was going to be substantially raising his prices because he was not meeting his cost goals. That contractor actually declined to bid this year, but we found some other ones for a much cheaper price than we expected, so, yes.
any other questions?
Yeah, well, it is a question. Is that the only pile in the county, or does Chestertown have one?
That is the only county pile. I do not know if the town has anything
It used to be.
themselves.
I know Rock Hall had its own pile, and I think it was Chestertown that had their
I
own.
think Chestertown still has a pile. They've been, offered multiple times that if they get it to Nicholson, it'll be ground, but we're not moving a tub grinder around to different
what I was
locations
curious.
anymore. So I don't know if they've been bringing it to Nicholson or if it's just accumulating and they're dealing with it themselves.
Right.
I don't think Chestertown has the chipping, available for residents to take.
No, but this
Yeah.
machine that
Right.
we hire used to go to
Right.
Rock Hall and do it,
Right.
used to go to Chestertown and do it, and then, of course, out to Nicholson. But they cut it out, and I could understand why, because like, I was town manager at Rock Hall at the time, and we didn't hire somebody, we didn't have anybody standing at the pile to make sure that there wasn't iron fence posts or something thrown in the pile that's going through a multi-million-dollar machine to tear it all up. So that's why I think out at Nicholson, everybody gets somebody there, one of those operators or people that work there, get an opportunity to at least look at what's going in there to try to avoid some issues with the machinery.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Would it be reasonable to notify the towns that we're going to be doing this and encourage them to get their,
I mean, this has been standard practice, so for example, Betterton has twice a month, they send around a truck, and then they take it out to Nicholson. So each town does it a little differently. I'm just not sure exactly what Chestertown's been doing. But they know that it's gonna be ground, assuming it gets to Nicholson, it's taken care of.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract with Hardwood Grinding Services LLC for wood processing at Nicholson Drop-Off Center at a unit price of $5.31 per cubic yard in the amount not to exceed $37,000.
Got a motion, and do I have a second?
Second, yes, sir.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you. The next item we'll discuss relates to the HVAC status at various buildings, various county-owned buildings. To give you some context, there are two different capital budget lines in the FY25 budget for HVAC replacements, one for this building and one for the county courthouse. Since the passing of the approval of the budget, we've been working with Johnson Controls to finalize proposals for those projects. And while that was going on, there was a number of failures that occurred to units throughout the county. And rather than simply press forward with what was originally budgeted, we thought it would be prudent to present the entirety, the whole picture to the commissioners, so that if any one individual project were to be reconsidered, you would be able to do that before other contracts were signed, because a number of the failures and potential failures that have been identified recently are not budgeted. So before we spent the budgeted dollars where they were budgeted, we wanted to give you the full picture. So with that said, the county courthouse had budgeted $40,523 to replace 3 HVAC units in FY25. We had identified 3 units at that time. However, there have been failures of other units since. So right now, we are proposing to replace unit number 4, 12, and 17 within the courthouse. Those are the right-of-way office, the chief deputy office, and clerk of the court. The total cost for those 3 is $31,498. So there is a $9,025 under budget for the courthouse discreetly. With that said, Unit 18, which is the land record office, and Unit 40 were originally planned to be replaced, and we are now proposing that those be deferred to FY26. The reason being, the land record office has 2 units. It functioned through the summer with 1 operational, and we were able to reasonably control temperatures within that room. Unit 40 is lockup 2. There is lockup 1 available when those rooms are needed. So during the bulk of the operation, the door is left open, so the lockup 1 air conditioning can flow into that room, and Unit 2 is only needed when both are needed. So it's limited use, and we're able to somewhat reasonably control temperatures operationally as opposed to with its own unit. So again, we had budgeted 3, we're proposing 3, just not the same 3. The net result is that 2 units will remain out of service through the rest of the budget year, and we will save $9,025 on that capital line. Moving to...
Dan, before you move on from there, I'm just wondering, why are we kicking the can down the road on the other 2 units? I mean, if they're not operational and they need to be replaced, and you're going to recommend that in FY26, why wouldn't we want to go ahead and fix it at this point?
I believe there are some failures that have occurred which are not budgeted that ideally we would replace everything at once. I wanted to present a prioritized list to the commissioners.
And I appreciate that. It's just that yesterday, when I went through the agenda and looked at everything, I reached out to our finance department to see what a current status of the county situation. And I got what I consider to be a very favorable report back. Now, it's just a projection, but it's a pretty close projection. And when I was looking at all these expenditures to take care of these HVAC problems, which have routinely been a problem for the county because they haven't been maintained over the years, the boilers and so forth and so on, I personally have a problem kicking the can down the road when I believe there's funding now available
Don't say that too loud, the state's listening.
Well, yeah, but there's only so much funding, but I mean, I think we need to take care of our county buildings.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was gonna say the same thing, that we just as well do them all and get it over with.
Yeah, because if not, we're gonna be hit with it again next year.
Yeah,
And we
sure.
might have something else on the plate that needs addressed. You know, I don't like spending the money, and I guess the former boards of commissioners at the time didn't like it either because they didn't do it. No criticism of you, but, you didn't do it because maybe you didn't have the money, but,
It's 132.
I think we're pretty fortunate right now to have what we have.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to waste it, but at the same time, sometimes when you put things off like this, you end up spending more money.
Well,
That would be my point. I mean, at my house, I kick the can down the road because I have to. And in some of these, I mean, really, it wouldn't bother me to kick it down the road. But, just like you said, it inevitably ends up, it's not going to be cheaper in FY '26.
It will not be,
No.
correct.
And some of these units are just hobbling, they're not completely down, but, so the
And maybe
hobbling
the
units were
efficiencies,
kind of.
and maybe the efficiencies of the units would end up hopefully saving us some money, and certainly any maintenance costs that we're going to incur trying to limp these things along would probably end up inevitably, hopefully, saving us some money.
So how much money would the request be if you were to move forward with all of the
Yes.
items mentioned in this item?
So to summarize, it would be 5 units in the courthouse. It would be 400 High Street, 3 units.
And the boiler.
3 units in 400 High Street, replacement of one of the boilers in 400 High Street. The water heater in the detention center that serves the kitchen and the resident showers.
That one I would like to talk about.
Yes,
In a
yes.
little more detail.
There's a unit in the mezzanine area of the detention center. There is,
And the control board at the public
and a
works.
control board for one of our units at the Public Works building. If we were to fund all of those projects, we would need an additional $201,888
On top of,
on top of the two budget, the $40,523 and $27,15.
The approved budget, I think, for FY '25 is $67,538.
so what was your number again, Dan? 200?
201,888.
And that's for all 6.
That is for everything encompassed here, and in my memo, that was included with the agenda, one unit was, we weren't able to have a cost at that time. We do have a cost for that now, and that's included in the number I just gave you.
I think, I don't know where you want to start, but I do think that we need to address the detention center items.
Well, I just want to know, myself, I would like to know, I understand they need a water heater because I guess the hot water is not good enough or whatever at this point. And
That's a unit yet where it's
about to fail.
hobbling along, as Carrie put it. Yes, it's showing signs that failure will occur in the near future. Failure has not occurred. The water heater is
that's a $60,000,
yes,
I-
70. 69,000.
69,000.
And the issue with that is it has an 8 to 10 week lead time from the time we order it till that unit shows up. So if we were to let that fail, we would need to bring in a temporary unit at additional cost to ensure that the resident showers and the kitchen maintained hot water so that the building could function, basically.
Well, you know, as you well know, we're in the process of conversations regarding our detention center, and I realize that we need to fix things and maintain them, and I don't have a problem with that, but to spend almost $70,000 on a building that's going to be obsolete probably, if the regional jail moves forward, and there's other things being considered in the meantime that's not going to require people to take showers. Not that
Right.
people shouldn't take showers, but we're going to be
It would not need the same shower
minimizing
or
what
kitchen
we're doing there
service.
now.
Yes.
Still maintaining the building, but we're going to minimize the operations. And the operations aren't going to really require a $70,000 expense. I don't think.
Right, we may have to replace a hot water heater, but I think we might be able,
It might be a much smaller unit.
Correct.
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
I mean, I don't know what you guys think about what
No, I think, obviously, I mean, what John's saying makes sense if we've got plans. We hate to put that much money into something, but maybe this is the one we do kick down the street for a little while until our plans are a little clearer what's going to go on there. But if you're going to put one on hold, that would be the one we would want to put on hold, I think, is what you're saying.
I think so. I mean, it's currently working.
The water heater at the detention center currently works. The unit in the mezzanine level, which is for the incarcerated individuals, that failed after the budget was approved, and that unit cost $63,316. So there's two different.
That's a unit what's that unit do?
Air temperature control.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. So that is in the residence area.
Is that heat and air conditioning or just air conditioning?
Heat and air. Yes. So the number I quoted a moment ago, the 201,888, if we were to subtract the hot water heater at the detention center, that would bring the additional not budgeted cost to $132,485.
And right now, the unit in the mezzanine, there is nothing.
It's
It's got to have maybe some
failed.
emergency heat or something there?
I think it's supported by another unit in the area, but I don't believe that the recommendation from JCI, Johnson Controls, was to replace it because of the other unit wasn't able to efficiently support the full space.
So if I understand correctly, the hot water heater is still working.
The hot water
Yes.
heater is still working.
And we can still put Band-Aids on it if we have to for a little while, probably.
I don't know if I don't know if Band-Aids were an option. But, yeah.
I think, I mean, I guess,
if there were a
We're putting you
failure, we
guys-
could
right.
look to address that discrete failure in the hope that the overall unit could be maintained. We can't predict exactly
Right, I
what
understand.
part will
Right, yes.
fail,
Yeah.
yes, but,
But it's a possibility it could be maintained by just
yes.
fixing it.
Yes.
And I am very, very sympathetic about the air quality at the detention center, the sheriff's office, the 911 center, because I lived it. And it's horrible. I mean, I can remember times where it was 90-plus degrees in the summer in those offices. And you know, both the staff, the incarcerated persons deserve to have a proper temperature to either be housed in or work in. So I wouldn't have a problem with the other part of the request, because hopefully that building will be used for something at some point. Maybe not, but the hot water heater, I'd like to kick that one down the road.
Okay.
could we,
Just my opinion.
the other unit you said is, I mean, it's just like anybody's house. Most people have more than one unit. And when one goes down, the other unit air's going to move. I mean, how uncomfortable does it get?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that.
Okay.
You've never spent time in
I
their
have
detention
not
center.
spent any time
Darn,
there.
well, good for you.
I think Dan's been in there.
I mean, we haven't
taken
received
a tour.
we haven't received any complaints, but I can't say that we wouldn't in the wintertime.
We didn't in the summertime. then I doubt we would. I mean, my opinion is that it's harder to cool something than it is to heat something. I mean, I just, I think with what may be coming down the road, or maybe not, I mean, this is one maybe, I don't know, just in my opinion, it's $60,000. Maybe we could just table that one for now. Not saying that we couldn't readdress it if there is a problem, but typically, the heat and air units it's not that big of a lead time on them.
Right, and I do appreciate the fact that we're talking about this during a temperate season. We can do a little for the detention center HVAC issue. So if I'm understanding correctly, we will table the water heater discussion. And for the HVAC issue in the detention center, we can do a little more homework and see what temperature ranges are actually actively being seen and the exact level of urgency for that one, and possibly bring it at a future meeting.
That's just my idea.
That's a good idea,
Okay?
for now anyhow. I mean,
Yeah, for now, exactly.
So that would.
Then you will,
So we're at 169.
want to put that in the form of a motion?
I think the number might change again.
Yeah, it's gonna
This is
change
the
again. It'll be,
proposed.
it's gonna be around 70,000, 72,000, something like that.
Taking these off.
That's 132, so this minus 132 gives us.
Okay, all right, that's the
You just have to put your one there.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Do we have a new number, Dan?
yes, in addition to FY '25 budget would be $69,169. And again, to summarize, that is 5 units in the courthouse, 3 units at 400 High Street, a new boiler at 400 High Street, and the new control board for Public Works.
Everybody good?
I'm good. Entertain a motion.
Let's see if I can do this right. I'd like to make a motion to allocate $69,169 from the fund balance to cover the HVAC and boiler issues that have been discussed here today.
Thank you.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You good? Okay.
So, with that said, there are some of these proposals currently on the agenda that we could go through separate motions for, or alternatively, I could add every proposal discussed as a consent item to next week's meeting and approve them with one, at your preference.
I would
Consent
recommend.
items is probably better.
Okay.
Right, because they've already discussed it here, so just add it as consent item. Makes
Very
sense.
good.
Is that the end of that?
That is the end of
That's
that.
the end of
one.
what you got
That one.
for us?
No,
That is.
there's one more.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are all items which I seek,
Oh,
any
the
action.
project updates we
Yes.
haven't got
This is
to
the
yet.
one you've been waiting for.
Well,
This one had no attachments to look at, so I guess
I do have a cheat sheet to aid in the preparation of minutes as well. Because I'm going to go through a number of projects. I'll try to stay high level with my updates, but certainly feel free to jump in and stop me at any point to discuss one further. I'll start with updates from our water wastewater consultant, Mike Molds, on the project he's working on. Village of Kennedyville sanitary sewer improvements, Pump Station 2 design is at 90% right now. We have responded to, or MDE reviewed our design. We responded to the comments. We're waiting on the final construction permit for them. We anticipate that construction cost for that project will be just under $890,000, a portion of which will be funded by ARPA funds. The Wharton Sludge Press design has been completed.
Now, well, let me
Yes.
back up.
Yep.
You said a portion of it will be funded by ARPA. Some of it will be funded out of your budget as well?
Is included in the FY '25 budget, yes.
I got you.
Yep. The Wharton Sludge Press design was completed. The RFP is either on the street now or will be within the next day or two. We will have proposals submitted to us by October 17th, and expect an award for the purchase of that item, October 31st. This is for the purchase of the sludge press. We will do a separate project after purchase for installation of it. It's much easier and you get much better bid prices from contractors if you have the exact unit that they're going to be installing as opposed to one contract for purchase and installation. So we broke that into two. We should be ordering that by the end of October. And again, that is a portion of our ARPA funds and a portion of FY '25 budget. Those two are the biggest use of ARPA funds. Some additional projects, the Fairleigh Water Plant design is ongoing. That's the same consultant working on the press. We had them prioritize getting the press to the finish line, but we expect that to move forward in the near future. We're working on VT SCADA upgrades, and staff is prioritizing which remaining pump stations will fit within, are the highest need within our FY '25 budget. We have the pump replacement program for pump stations. They are also doing a thorough evaluation to determine the priority list for that program. There's $53,000 budgeted in FY '25 for it. They're looking at the age, the actual reduction in pumping capacity, the repair history, the redundancies available, and how easy it is to get specific replacement parts to determine exactly which pumps would be of the highest value to replace. There are Tolchester control valve at the wastewater treatment plant. There's a total of 4 of them for the 3 treatment trains. Staff is working on rebuilding the valves at a little under $2,000 a valve, and purchasing new actuators as well for those. They are working on the UV treatment at at Tolchester wastewater plant as well.
Is that ARPA money paying for those projects?
I believe that those two do have a portion ARPA. ARPA is broken up where a portion FY '25 budget, a portion ARPA. On ARPA, all money must be obligated by the end of this calendar year and spent by the end of calendar year '26. We are confident that we will meet both those goals, those deadlines.
Very good, because that's why I asked. I know there's a deadline, and we've got to get rid of that ARPA money, and, I mean, not get rid of it, but we got to spend it wisely, and that's what we planned on doing with it.
Yes. Yeah, all ARPA-funded projects or projects planned to be funded by ARPA are well in motion. We completed inspections of the 7, I believe, county water tanks. There was one that needed to be held off because there was osprey nesting on it. The osprey have left, and they were able to do that inspection. We anticipate that we'll receive recommendations for things like corrosion protection, maintenance, and safety improvements, and maybe looking for annual budget to go towards those in the future, starting with FY '26. At the budgeting time, at the budgeting season, getting ready for the FY '25 year, there was a request for funding for a sewer camera for the jetter. Commissioners graciously funded that with FY '25 funds. That has been received, and is currently in use, and very beneficial to the team. The one big project I haven't mentioned yet, the Millington wastewater treatment plant. We have been working diligently with the developer to finalize a site plan There has been some back and forth about the exact location of where the plant will fall on that property and how it may benefit the larger development around it, and also meet our needs for access and site location, environmental buffers, et cetera. We believe we have nailed that down, and we are working to have that property appraised so we can move forward with purchase of the land. That was a big item that we are intending to accomplish in the near future, to demonstrate to potential developers the county's commitment to making this project happen. So once we have acquired the land, it's one less thing in the way of construction. Because of that coordination and revised site design, we expect that the bids will be able to be solicited, received, and awarded within fiscal year '25. However, it may be in May or June, as opposed to what we were hoping originally for February. There were 3 water sewer planning projects, I would characterize them as, that were recently authorized. That's the water and sewer allocation fees study, the construction standards development, and the Millington Water Feasibility Study. That was reuse of the KRM Upper Shore Regional funding. Those have been initiated and are well underway.
Dan, before you go too far,
Yes.
you were in a couple weeks ago, and we talked about taking back some of the allocations
Yes.
for that line up there that would allow the people that are looking at maybe affordable housing up and whatever affordable housing is, to maybe go ahead and do something to get it started. Have you made any progress with how we were going to handle that?
Yes, we have prepared a draft letter that would go to each affected resident, customer. And I believe we left that where I would submit a copy of that letter and the specific list of people who will receive it and potentially have their allocations recaptured. I'll submit that for final approval from the commissioners, and we will be prepared to begin that process in earnest within the next few weeks. But we have identified them. We drafted up the correspondence in accordance with our policies, and it's ready to go. Moving on to Nicholson Groundwater Treatment Facility. There's a couple different things in motion there. Just this morning, actually, I received a letter from MDE, and that letter recognized our testing at the outfall as opposed to at the treatment plant, and that the results were good. It is a permit modification and tentative determination is how they characterized it. And they do support, MDE does support relocating the testing location to the outfall and formally recognizing that in our permit, which could potentially bring us in compliance. There's a process that goes along with that where there will be public notices published in the Kent County News September 12th and 19th, advising of the potential change and what they characterize as tentative determination. And the public has until October 2nd to submit any requests for information or questions. And at that time, it'll be determined if a public hearing is necessary on the subject. But we are in motion with that one as well to get the change in location permitted, which may potentially bring us into compliance.
That's great.
Now, Dan, before you move away from that item, I mean, we've been fooling with this for a while now, and if there's anybody listening, just by changing that, when we were testing at the treatment little facility, at the filtering place, that had 10 parts per million iron, and and we're only allowed 3. So by moving that testing site to the outfall, that's where it really starts to go into the environment.
Where the water is actually released into the stream, yes.
Absolutely. When we tested it there, the test results come in 1/10 of 1%. So it's well under what we were allowed. So we can avoid this $4.5 million treatment facility. But when we were discussing this, and I was there with you and a couple of our main operators, and they were talking about what would really help out, it would help in a whole host of ways, would be to put a couple sand filters, because they're designed to take out the iron. The filters that we're using now, these carbon filters, are not really, they're not even supposed to be taking iron out. But by running through those carbon filters, we have to change the carbon in them things, in those filters, like on a yearly basis, where if we had these sand filters, we'd only have to do it every 10 years or so. It would be more efficient, and it would help our workers. And I mentioned something to Les Knapp, who is with MDE, at Mako about that, and he said, no, don't do anything. You're gonna get a letter from. So I guess this is the letter, and it's just verifying that those samples were good, and that's gonna be the end of it.
Well,
It's gonna be the end of it for them.
yeah, the end of it is to modify our NPDES permit, which is a federal permit, we obtain it through the state, but ultimately it's federal, to amend that permit to formally change the testing location to the
testing
outfall.
location.
And that is, this letter I received this morning, I believe, is what Mr. Knapp referenced, and it is the first step in that process.
So they're not asking us to do anything else except go through the process of making the area that we test legal, I guess.
And to, keep testing. At this time, I haven't, it's a 24-page letter. I can't say I have it all down from this morning, but I believe from my conversations with Lee Curry at MDE, they would, in the interim, be looking for testing at both locations, as we've done the last 2 months.
But did we, but I guess what I'm thinking, I do still think, even though we're well within our bounds or our limits, it would be a good idea to add a couple additional sand filters. So I don't think I would rule that out.
Absolutely.
And just forget about it, because it helps us it helps our operators. They don't have to maintain it as much. It's not as much trouble. Plus, it would save those carbon filters, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of our carbon filters is it leaks.
The tank itself.
There's some things there that we could do to fix that. So I wouldn't rule that. I would keep that project.
That is, we are actively working on that portion of it, yes. We've been in contact with a consultant, Mr. Kirshner, and his team, about different options as far as filtration systems, if there needs to be chemical additives, or if those may be beneficial. We are proposing a pilot test to determine the effectiveness, so we'll actually be testing on a small scale, the filtration, before implementing at a large, or for the whole system. And based on that pilot test, we feel we'll have a much better understanding of.
Were we able to get a crew down there to fix that walkway where you take those tests?
Yes, they reset the corner posts of the walkway and added a handrail along the back of it for safety.
It was a walkway at this outfall that goes out over a ditch. It was a little rickety, and
that's where you need to actually walk onto and stand to grab the sample of water, and
yeah.
So yes.
And
environmental operations.
they said it wasn't a very safe operation, and we was not a major project, just something small.
No, our staff was able to handle it with small, expensive supplies to
Well, good,
shore
that
it
all
up.
sounds, when they told me at Mako not to do anything, because there was a letter coming, I thought, no, now what are they doing? But it sounds like, that's good.
Yep. I have a couple other small things, but in general, that would summarize water and wastewater. I have a number of other updates for you. Starting with the EMS building, as you know, we recently awarded that contract. I was not able to attend a prior meeting, but I understand the building has been named and there will be a dedication, which we're excited about. And we'll be looking a little more into the aesthetic of the building. as compared to what was in the RFP we put out. I'll note that that still is in design, so if there is cost implications, is yet to be determined. We may just be able to work within our current budget, but that's being evaluated currently. We're still moving.
According to Commissioner Nickerson, you just put some of that lick and stick stuff on there. That's what he calls it.
Yep, I'm familiar, it's an industry term. Yep. We're in close coordination with that contractor as well as OES towards an October groundbreaking. But as we get closer, I'll be able to confirm a specific date.
When did you say the groundbreaking may be?
October, but I don't,
Oh, that's
yeah.
getting close. And it's a 2 or 3 month project, is it?
We would anticipate from groundbreaking to the building opening, we would expect the opening in late spring.
Okay.
So about 6 to 8 months, maybe.
Oh,
all
okay.
in. Yep. Yeah, and obviously the big push there is to get the earthwork done, get the concrete slab installed, and the shell of the building up before winter, because that work is somewhat weather dependent, while interior work could carry through the winter.
Typical customer. Expect something to happen in 3 months that's going to take 6 to 8 months.
I do believe
Not being a builder.
County's a good contractor.
Yeah, that's right. Some of them string them things along. You ain't got, they ain't fooling me.
I believe Carrie, at the last meeting Public Works was at, gave an update on Bayside Landing. We expect that project to be at the bid in the very near future with a goal of November, late fall start for construction. An opening before boating season of 2025.
After that storm, we don't have much choice now, do we?
Yes, sir. We have been working with DNR, who approached us about the potential for grant funding within the county. And we're pursuing a potential to obtain increased grant funding towards that project from DNR. We're just working through mechanically if it would be an expansion of the previous grant, if it would be a new grant, how it would fit best into their system, but we're seeking additional grant funding
Very
for it.
encouraging.
And
Yes.
that particular project also includes the pump out station being replaced.
Yes.
And I guess I got a call the other day about a water leak that probably happened during that storm. And
Yes.
I passed it on to Mark Dixon. I guess he.
Yes, we were
somebody
able
take a
to
look at it.
address that. Yeah, by the bathhouse, I believe, at Bayside, yes. So that's Bayside Landing. The FY '25 paving program started and has been completed. We repaved Camp Road, Kent Mill, Dave's Hill, Mill Lane, and Lee Avenue. The total project came in $2,800 under budget. And all work has been completed by David A. Bramble. The courthouse lobby expansion, bids were received for that project. The low bid is $54,200. We're about $14,000 short on available budget for that project. However, at a future meeting, we'll be requesting potential allocation of funds in support of that and award of the contract. I've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers and David A. Bramble to scope out and set up a dredging project for the Rock Hall Harbor. Right now, assuming that the permitting and surveys are in good standing that Bramble holds for the Orem pit to deposit the material, we would expect fall 2025 dredging of Rock Hall Harbor.
You mean the entrance to the harbor?
Yes. And that would be funded and designed by Army Corps of Engineers. The multi-use sand courts, Carrie has been working to coordinate with the contractor. Everything as far as approvals is settled, and we expect the contractor to start work approximately the 24th, which is 2 weeks from today, and about 2 week total duration for that. As I believe Carrie mentioned last time, the trucking and disposal of excess material will be handled by County Roads, as well as some material donation, stone and geotextile fabric in support of that project. And any money we save them gets put back into the courts by the foundation. We, in the spring of this year, which was under FY '24, ordered some new benches for Wharton Park and some sensory equipment to expand their playground, make a more inclusive environment for those with disabilities. That is anticipated to be received within the next few weeks. There'll be, as I mentioned, the sensory play equipment, 2 new benches at each of the 2 separate playgrounds, so 4 playground benches total, and then 12 benches around the walking path within Wharton.
I was just going to say, speaking of Wharton, Commissioner Price, I checked on the porta potty situation, and the vendor admitted that he had dropped the ball that week, but they are scheduled to be cleaned every Friday. So just wanted to let you know we did follow up with that.
The Roads Division has been evaluating speed limits at a number of locations, specifically Rosedale Cannery Road, Turner's Point, Reese's Corner, and Lover's Lane in Rock Hall. As you know, they have the traffic study equipment, the tubes they can lay across the road that tracks the number of vehicles, average speed, percentage of people going above or below. I was asked recently about Rosedale Cannery, and we performed a study and found that almost everyone is functioning within the current speed limit. I believe that's 50 miles an hour. And so we may be recommending a lowering of the speed limit at some of those roads. I believe at least one of the ones I mentioned does not have a posted speed limit. So we're gathering our data right now. Within the next couple weeks, we'll be coordinating with the Sheriff's Department based on the data for recommendations to either institute new speed limits or lower existing speed limits. And once we are in agreement with the Sheriff's Department, we'll bring that to the commissioners for approval. But that is an initiative within the Roads Department that's ongoing. And there was mention of a tree on Annie Crow Road that had died. That was recently removed, I believe last week. The stump remains in place. It's on a slope down to the road, and in my opinion, aesthetics notwithstanding, the tree stump and the root system associated with it holds that slope together, so I would not recommend removing it at this time. But the tree itself has been removed. The county awarded an on-call contract to Nickel Electricians for on-call electrician services. And we are in the process of a secondary contract. So Nickel would be our prime for countywide electrician services. There would be a secondary one specific to water, wastewater, as they've worked with another vendor to build some of the systems. So they would have a very competitive advantage in terms of efficiency for cost of repairs, should they be needed. And we're exploring other potential on-call contracts, environmental cleanup and services, situations like we had with the courthouse basement, for example, having vendors under contract ready with set rates. Speaking of the courthouse basement, do you want to give a quick update?
We just received the repair estimate this morning, and so I have to review that with the adjuster, and hopefully we've already received a small payout from our insurance company, not small, $18,000 for repairs. And now that we finally have the full repair estimate, we should be able to move forward with taking care of everything that we need to get that courtroom downstairs up and running, and the other repairs that need to take place, and mold remediation that needs to take place in the restrooms on the first floor.
There are, for your awareness, 2 dump trucks that we currently consider spares within roads. We were doing, staff was doing the annual DOT inspections. They determined that one of the 2 has a cracked frame. A repair was attempted in the past. However, at this point, we feel that vehicle is likely served all it can for us, and we would not recommend repair, nor would we recommend donation to a town of a truck in that condition. and a second truck that has severe rusting. So neither of these are in active use right now, and we will be bringing requests to sell those to the public at auction for whatever they may be worth, or scrap if nothing else. So when we receive the FY '24 order for dump trucks, that will not generate a vehicle for donation to a town. However, when we receive the FY '25 dump truck, that would generate a new vehicle that may be a candidate for donation as opposed to sale. We made the recent donation to Chestertown, so we were directed by
This would be
committee.
the second one, then, correct?
This would be the second one, and we will engage all the towns within the county to gauge their interest and requests. We have begun, restarted, I should say, enforcement of public landings, the trailer permits, parking, things of that nature. That's in coordination with the sheriff's department, where I have staff that are regularly inspecting the landings and issuing written warnings, and coordinating with the sheriff's department as needed to issue actual citations.
This is just staff that we have currently.
Yes, yeah, we're utilizing part-time employees and in close coordination with the sheriff's department, so that we have a good relationship on that item, and efficient service to make sure that we follow the rules when it comes to trailer permitting, because that's a significant revenue stream for the county that there was a lapse for a period of time in the enforcement. So that program is up and running, and we've issued many warnings, a few citations, and we expect over the next few weeks, as word gets around, that number to drop off substantially. And the last one on my list, if you can believe it, is Turner's Creek. That parking lot was tar and chipped in the spring as part of that program. We have striped out parking spaces where the granary used to be. I believe we got 16 spaces down there, with a sign that says not for trailer parking. Trailer parking is still up the hill. And we noted 2 areas of the bulkhead at that landing that required repairs. Repair work was completed in August at those sites. And the costs associated with those items, the tar and chip, minimal cost of the paint, and the bulkhead repairs are all being tracked and accounted for with Parks and Rec in terms of the money that needs to be put into that site.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's all acceptable.
Yes, yeah, we've been, as we've gotten contracts, we've been in coordination with Parks and Rec to ensure that that would be attributable towards the total amount needed.
Is someone still working on what we're gonna put down there to remember the granary? There's a.
Yes, but we were repurposing the wood from the granary, some of the wood, for a bench and a sign. I believe the sign has been received, and we're finalizing our coordination with the contractor for the bench. They're Amish in Pennsylvania and deal in standard mail, so it's taking a bit of time. But
Good. We should all be that way.
Yes, yes.
Maybe we should be.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Well, that was a lot going on, that's for sure. When you look at all the digest all your report, there's a lot in it, and I appreciate that, because it's very helpful if we know what's going on and remember, some of the older projects and wherever. One question: have you ever gotten to where they have a KCI? Where are they getting close to groundbreaking up there for the new wastewater treatment plant? Or are they close enough to even predict when a groundbreaking might take place?
I would expect that.
I mean, I know hasn't even been bid out yet, because
Right.
it's still in the design phase, but are we getting close to the end of that design phase?
There was some delay in the design phase that dealt with coordination with the current landowner, Mr. Richardson. And whether the building, the entire facility could be shifted one way or the other, and what that would do to our costs, what that would do to his development, the environmental concerns around it. That cost us about a month. But we are pretty confident in our footprint we have set now, and working towards getting the land we intend to purchase appraised, so we can get the land acquisition. As I said, the bid will likely happen this coming spring, with award maybe in June. I don't know in terms of, from the time of award, when ground would get broken. And what I mean is, I don't know if there's 3 months of material ordering before they think about breaking the ground, or if they would do the site work up front. But early FY '26.
Well, all of this also depends on the state coming up with, I mean, there's going to be a cost share, so the state has to commit to their cost share.
Yes.
And then at some point in time, we're going to negotiate with the developer, whoever that is at the time.
Right.
On what their share is. Correct. I mean, we have to have all that lined up before we do
Yes.
we're putting shovels in the ground.
Right, right. But
The permitting process with MDE is
Right.
long, usually. It's usually a lot longer than whatever you're gonna estimate it to be.
they can take up to 60 days. They normally take 59, yes, for a review.
I've seen them take.
If you can get this reviewed by them within 59 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I was getting ready to say, yeah, well, I'll take that.
That's a career accomplishment.
I'll take
I've never seen-
61.
Yeah, so would I. I've
Yeah.
never seen a project of this magnitude come anywhere close to 60 days.
69, I don't know if you want to.
And you could run into, they approve something, and then they send a letter saying, oh, well, we approved this, but we have this other
Right,
technology,
right,
and so we want you to reconsider and go with this.
I included this because I just did the whole number. But this.
That was an extensive list.
Yeah,
If there are
very
any
good
other
job.
questions
Very
or-
thorough.
This.
Okay, and that equals this, right, this. This 170.
Now I'm just second guessing myself.
Double checking our HVAC number.
Okay. Wait, good idea.
I did it a few times, and then I need like an adding machine so I can see what I actually put in there, if anybody knows what an adding machine is. 25, so these two, then I'm adding this 37,
970.
7509, because it was over budget.
Got 5709.
Well, I think this is my number.
Yeah, okay.
57, oh Christ almighty, 23700 plus.
The number we had stated for HVAC was 69,169.
Correct.
I believe that number may be slightly higher.
7509. That is.
It would actually be 78,194.
78,194. So whoever made and seconded the motion, they can amend it. They've already voted on it, but we just need an amended number.
Yeah,
Or
you
we
need to
can
take
wait.
some action
John's
to
just
number
stepped
change.
out for a minute. He'll be right back.
Yep.
We'll make a clarification, I think.
Yeah. Okay, the number for the HVAC is not 69,169, it's actually 78,194.
Correct.
So we're gonna need to amend that number,
7894.
78,194.
Just make a motion to amend the number in the motion that you just passed to 79, whatever it was. And that should be sufficient.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we amend the number from
69,169.
69169 to $78,194 regarding the necessary HVAC and boiler work to be done.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Now, before you leave, a couple things.
You thought.
Just
were
a-
going,
one is, in my opinion, is good news, because I think there's supposed to be a groundbreaking or some work starting on that Millington project with the senior housing facility and all of that that's going on up there, like the first week in October, which is coming up pretty soon. There's talk that work will actually, I think Bramble's going to do a lot of the work, and that's going to be taking place soon. Now, there was some discussion that evidently in this project, there's going to be a need for some dirt.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay, and there's a couple sites that they're talking about. One of them is right there where that treatment plant's supposed to go, because there's possibility of cutting that bank out or something, and they need to get rid of that dirt, which could be used at this project. And then there's, the second place is someplace in Massey, but it's about 3 miles away. So it's not long distance, but it's hauling dirt. This is just a hypothetical. If push come to shove, us sitting there with 10 or 15 dump trucks, would we, if we were asked and it was necessary to do it, could we dedicate the hauling maybe of some of that? If they did the loading and everything, and what we did just transport the dirt from one area to another. I don't know that it's gonna be necessary. We're just throwing.
I don't know specifically, and may look to Tom as far as what agreements may need to be in place for us to support that project, but from a practical standpoint, it would, yes, we have drivers, we have dump trucks, they could do that. It would be at the expense of their regular programs that they function in throughout the year, culvert pipe replacements, roadside cutting, tree trimming, those types of things would all be delayed for the duration to accomplish it. But.
And I don't know
that-
how much
yes.
of this, how much it is and how long it would take. I don't know. I mean, it might be a week. I don't know.
Right.
What it would take to do that. But the question was posed to me, and I said, we obviously have the manpower and the equipment to do it. It's just,
We would probably want to get some type of an agreement where there's an indemnification and a hold harmless at a
yeah, the legal
minimum.
parts, I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
there's something
Right.
we have to do there. Okay, because they're gonna start, there's work's gonna start, I think, first week in October at the latest, I was told. I just heard that this morning.
And when I was discussing the coordination for the Millington wastewater plant with the property owner, that has been part of the coordination as well. If they can come in and, because it's a bit of a hill right now, if they could kind of plateau that hill at a certain elevation for us before we start our
We would not
project.
only be helping the project, we would be helping their project.
Yes.
To move the dirt, because
Because the dirt needs to move anyways.
That
yes.
the dirt needs to be going.
Yes, so that's been part of the, as I mentioned, delay to the overall project, but productive work to finalize the location and grades, things like that, yes.
Okay. And then the last item that I have is, you and I have talked about these two sewer allocations.
Yes.
That have been asked by Mr. Hill in Rockall. And he had, and I'll just give, for my colleagues, a little history there. In 1991, there was a plat that you have a copy of. I left a copy of it with you.
Yes.
There's a plat signed off by the planning director, who was Gail Owens, and head of the environmental health was Ed Burkmeyer. And they've signed off on this plat. And what it was, you don't know where this is, but Miss Ella Brooks had a farm on the way down East Neck Island. Now, it was this plat showing that obviously they couldn't get perk tests down there, but they did get approval for mound systems in 1991, probably 10 years or more before we put a sewer line down there. They built some of the homes on these mound systems, but they held off on these two, and they didn't pursue it. Now they want to pursue it, but because we've put sewer line right by there, there's really no need to build these approved mound systems. I'm not, and now I've talked to Bill Webb about it, and he said, well, if they don't want to build the mound systems, there's no additional testing that needs to take place. The only thing we would be interested in is where the well's going to be located, and these parcels of land obviously are large enough to take care of that. So my question is, what would be the hesitation in awarding these allocations?
Sure. So, from my conversation with Bill Webb, last Thursday, the 5th, he indicated to me that the 1991 approval was for subdivision of the land and not specifically for the mound system.
But
You need
on
to
that-
show the mound system on the subdivision plan. You
Yeah.
need to show that there's space for it, but he said that did not constitute a approval of the mound system. And in my conversation with him,
But I can tell you that there was probably at least 5 or 6 parcels on that, that was on that plat. And 4 of them have the mound systems. So something was approved. I mean, something
Yep.
dealing with those mound systems was approved because there's 3 or 4 of them built, that was built.
I've requested any information on those I could get from the health department, because ultimately this is on a denied access line. And if a piece of land is outside of what currently is mapped as service area, but adjacent to the denied access line, if they can show that it would be developable via septic or other on-lot system, they become eligible for connection.
We essentially, we would treat it the same as a lot that would perk.
That's exactly
We would,
right.
the approval of the mound system is equivalent to a lot that perks.
Yes. And then,
And I can tell you, Gail, and I knew them both very well, Gail Owens and Ed Burkmeyer, and they were longtime servants of Kent County. They didn't sign that thing without a lot of discussion about it. And the fact that that the other 3 or 4 properties on that was on that farm have their mound systems and homes built on them. I find it hard to believe that there wasn't some, that because on that plat that I showed you with those signatures on it, it even marks out the mound, where the mound systems are to go on these 2 properties.
so I spoke to Bill Webb about this, as I mentioned, and I referred back to our comprehensive water and sewer plan, which has a process for connection to the denied access line. And the specific language was, the property must demonstrate that the property owner can document that the property can be served by a septic system, demonstrating that it can be developed and that it is environmentally preferable to connect to the public sewer system. Bill's response to that was that the health department does not have in its files documentation to meet that criteria.
Well, you know what? If they haven't kept that information, look, there's 3 other mound systems at least on this parcel of land that's approved. I think if somebody doesn't have that information, that's
The problem is, this whole thing gets rolled up into a comprehensive plan amendment, which must be submitted to the Planning Commission as well as state agencies, MDE, MDP, and DNR. And per our state-approved comprehensive plan, the state must review it, issue comments, and have those comments addressed before commissioners can approve the amendment by resolution. And that amendment must be approved by resolution before any allocation can be given. So my concern is, if Mr. Hill were to prepare the amendment per our standards, and we then submit it to the state, they would kick it back to us and say, you haven't met all your criteria.
So what would be the next step?
The property in question would need soils evaluation, a perk test, basically.
Test.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say.
from my conversations with Mr. Webb, that would be the missing piece needed to start the amendment process.
Now, Mr. Hill would tell you, if he was sitting here, that those perk tests were done. And that's why there's 3 mound systems on that parcel. And that the fact that the health department doesn't have the information of what took place back then is not the problem of Mr. Hill's. It's, you know, they just don't have, they haven't been able to put their fingers on the paperwork. It just,
My understanding is it's like a checklist for the state when they get this, and if they can't check every box, they're not gonna move it forward for the amendment.
Is there any chance that Mr. Hill may have records to show that perk test was done and the lot didn't perk?
well, he may not have that, but he's got a plat with the signature of the planning director and the environmental health officer showing these areas, and it specifically shows where these mound systems are to be located, and it's got both of their signatures
I
on it.
guess it could be implied that if the property owner is going to put in a mound system, there's a reason for that, and the reason is the lot didn't perk. But I can't speak for MDE and these state agencies, what may be acceptable to us, and we would say, okay, there wouldn't be a mound system on the plat if it didn't perk, so that's acceptable to us. The question is, would that be acceptable to MDE, or are they going to say, we have our checklist, we're very rigid, we have to see an actual perk test. We're not going to imply anything, we have to see it. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. That was a correct summation.
Well, then what would be?
Well, and I sort of see it just the opposite. I think that plat signed by both officers showing that there was, they went through a subdivision of this piece of parcel of property, and they have drawing on these plats where these mound systems go. Back in 1990, I cannot believe that Gail Owens and Ed Burkmeyer signed off on that if they didn't pass. Because we know that the other 3 did, because I can show them to you from the road, the mound systems.
I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Fithian, because I personally, and have had dealings with Mr. Burkmeyer and Ms. Owens. So what would, and, you know, with everything else, the other 3 lots that are built on and so on and so forth, what would be the harm in us advancing this, starting the process? I mean, worst case scenario, they tell us that Mr. Hill has to re-perk, correct? I mean, that's the,
Yes, yeah, if an amendment were prepared, submitted to the state, I mean, the worst that can happen is the state comes back and says, we need these items, one of which is perk
But
tests for the lot.
we know darn well the same dirt, the same property, that it ain't changed since 1991. If it passed in 1991 for a mound system, I can't imagine what would change to where it wouldn't pass now, unless they'd made new regulations or something. But
Yeah.
when something is signed off on by those 2 agencies, it just appears to me like that's covering your base. I mean,
you're using way too much common sense. Way too.
maybe so.
Yeah, to his credit, Bill Webb said that if this came to him based on what they have in the file, and if this wasn't a denied access scenario, he would have no problem signing off on the building permit for connection. But when I explained to him what the state requires, he said, I don't have that in the file. So that's as far as I've gotten.
Well, I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve them, and we'll just see where it goes.
Well, it's got to go to the state we could approve it here, but that doesn't mean that they can tap in the line. It's got to go to the state Because
Yes.
you have to have an amendment to the service area and include these parcels in the service area.
It goes through the county planning
Right.
commission and then the various state
Right.
agencies
So
for
that's,
approval.
that's the issue. You got to get them in the service area. You can't get them in the service area without state approval.
But the fact that this one farm was subdivided and they have three, or at least three houses on mound systems now, and this signed plat just doesn't mean anything?
The way Mr. Webb characterized that plat to me was that it was an approval of the subdivision, not the mound
Would
system.
you even approve a subdivision if you didn't have a way to handle
have
your
a plan.
wastewater?
I'm going
Look,
off
this
what
is
I'm
about like that $4.5 million sewer system we were this close to building. Maybe there is room for a little common sense around here, and I'm willing to take that argument.
So
So-
what about moving forward the amendment?
Right.
Because we can't issue the allocations until the amendment is passed, but we could move forward in the amendment process. And then, assuming it gets all the way through, then you can issue
So
the
we'll do the
allocations.
I will revise the comprehensive rezone, sewer.
Comprehensive
Water
water
and
sewer
sewer.
plan.
Water and sewer plan to
And see
include
where
these
it goes,
lots.
and if it comes back okay, then we will issue.
Yes, but I want to clarify that typically, the comprehensive water and sewer plan amendments are prepared by the applicant. Recently, the Bay Shore Campground project, that was the case.
Yeah, but that was a huge case. I just don't, and this come up once before, to tell one of our constituents that they have to upgrade our sewer allocation, comprehensive sewer plan. I mean, if you told me that, I wouldn't know where the hell to start. I mean, I just think that's something that we should do. Whether we write to MDE, tell them about, look, what we're talking about is taking a line, moving the line to encompass these two pieces of property. It shouldn't be brain surgery or something. It's just, wouldn't a letter to MDE stating the rationale that we have a signed plat showing where these two mound systems could be located?
But I think you have to do a resolution. You have to adopt a resolution putting these two
I
properties.
guess what I'm saying, it's their
in-
job, in my opinion.
You can
to
include the
make-
plat
To
as part of
make
that.
it easy for constituents, and this thing just, I think the evidence is there, and the fact that we have this signed plat by these two well-known public servants of Kent County should certainly carry enough weight to get two sewer allocations.
The amendment process is governed by Comar. So a letter will not work, just to be frank.
Well, what would they do? What would the property owner have to do?
I believe it's typically prepared by a consultant. There's some revised mapping and reports that need to be written. As I mentioned, there's checklists that need to be satisfied from each of the state agencies this goes to. I have never prepared a plan amendment myself, so I wouldn't be able to right now estimate what the effort may be if done by an applicant or by the county. But it is an application package that gets assembled and submitted with, minimum requirements for what's included.
It's actually outlined in the Kent County Comprehensive Water and Sewage Plan, exactly what Mr. Hill would need to do
Yes.
to comply with what's currently there.
And what's it
I
say?
personally,
And what's it say?
if you can read this little writing, Charlie, can you bring it up on yours and maybe share it?
Is
I
that
read it, I read it the other day. There's a list of, it looks like maybe 7 things that would be required, which in Mr. Hill's case, I would think he might want to consider an attorney to do all that for him, but I don't disagree with what you're saying. My only fear is that the county right now has so many projects where MDE is going to have a say in. And we've already had one debate with them, which it sounds like we were okay with. And I worry about the potential repercussions if we don't act in a proper way in their eyes. You know, I don't disagree that Mr. Hill shouldn't get those allocations, especially when they're available. And I don't think he has any intention on doing anything with the
Not
property.
only available, but probably the best thing for the environment, which is.
Well, it's
It
much
is.
better than a
It
mound
is.
system,
It is much
two
better.
mound systems. I mean, that's the idea of putting the line out there to begin with, is to keep from having to build mound systems and for allow some development. I mean, some failed septic systems to be taken out of service.
My only thing is, for lack of better words, I don't want to, I'll use better words, alienate MDE by doing something that might come back and bite us down the road.
I would agree with that if it wasn't for that signed plat that gives him permission to do this in 1991, and that was before the sewer line went down there.
I'm on the water sewer comp plan, but I'm looking for
And-
the,
If I'm looking at it right, it's very small.
We
Okay,
do
yeah.
have the Millington
it's not big.
plant that we're gonna need MDE approvals on.
Full size.
But you know, MDEs, if, in the perfect world,
Page 4.
I mean, they're supposed to be looked at as partners with us, not adversaries.
I would agree with you, but that hasn't always been the case, especially with enforcement. I agree philosophically with that. Unfortunately, over the years, at least I have seen with various local
I don't know how
governments,
you can look at a
MDE
plat with a
doing enforcement.
with a planning director and an environmental health officer signatures on it, of showing a subdivision and showing the spots where the mound systems are to be built, as not all the evidence that you need. That you could almost make the argument that when we drew the lines for the comprehensive sewer, that we made a mistake by not including them in that plan.
But it sounds like it's not a no, we just have to follow the right
Procedure.
process.
And Dan, is there a procedure for that if we say, we should have included this, we intended to include this, but we didn't? Kind of like a change in mistake rule with zoning, you know, we made a mistake by not including it, or it was something we should have done. I don't know if that makes any difference or not in the whole approval process with MDE.
Sure, and I don't know if there's a separate category.
Right, is there a more
for that.
streamlined way to do it under those circumstances?
Listen, what I'm getting ready to say is no reflection on you, because you're new to this, and I had a conversation about 3 weeks ago, it was just out of the blue, because we had a public works director here named,
Wayne Morris?
Wayne Morris. And he wrote these things. He built these systems. He was here when the systems were put in place. And he wrote that, what they're reading, about how you have to be able to, what you have to comply with to be able to hook up to these systems if you're not included in the beginning. In other words, if you can prove you have a perk test or a mound system or something, then, or a home, an old home that was there ahead of time,
Failed septic, yes.
that you can hook up. They can make a difference. And he said that's exactly why I put that kind of stuff in there. And like I said, I'm not talking about you, because this is all new to you and you weren't part of that. But we never, in the past, we didn't have all these. It wasn't this complicated when he was there. He'd probably just, I don't know, but we did things like this in the past. But now it's changed. I don't want, not in a good way as far as I'm concerned, but if we can figure out how to make it work, I'll go, that's,
So I'm still not where Commissioner Price found this exactly, but it's the Kent County Comprehensive Water and Sewerage Plan review process. It's a PDF that's 4 pages long. The property owner submits a written request for public water and/or sewer service identifying the property and capacities requested, EDUs. County staff reviews the county adopted comprehensive water and sewer plan, tax maps and any files on the property. If the property is in the existing or planned sewer area, and then if the property is outside the sewer, the mapped area, and is not connected to a denied access line, the applicant is notified in writing that the applicant must submit an amendment to the water and sewer plan for review and approval to add the property into the service area. Staff will review the amendment to determine if there's any improvements to the water and/or sewer facilities necessary to service the property. The review process will include coordination with the county planning and zoning, the developer, the state, MDP, MDE, DNR, once the water and sewer comprehensive water and sewer plan amendment is approved by all parties. The allocation request can be made with conditional approval by the commissioners. A public works agreement is developed and approved to establish easements, allocation fees, installation of utilities, off-site improvement, security, etc.
so what's the answer?
It looks to me like we need to go through the amendment process. And so an amendment needs to be prepared that would go to planning and zoning and then MDP, MDE, and DNR. And Bill, you have familiarity with this as well, since,
The only thing I was thinking is, this seems really similar to the Ina Reed case, which took a while, but it didn't seem like it was that burdensome. It was the same process,
a very similar process.
and you all did a resolution. It took some
Absolutely.
time, but it didn't seem like it was,
But who
It takes a
does-
while,
Who
right?
does this, Bill?
generally applicants do. I mean, it's an applicant-driven process. When you're securing entitlements, essentially you're acting as a developer. So the developer is usually the one who would apply to secure entitlements, and this is an entitlement process.
So my answer to Mr. Hill should be, you can probably get it, but you're gonna have to go through a process.
Right, which is a state mandated process. I mean, our process just reflects what the state mandates. It's not, ours isn't separate or different from anywhere else in Maryland. We can certainly share previous copies of previous amendments on the file. It's all public record. We might be able to utilize one to sort of, do a similar letter, et cetera. It's usually a written document.
Whatever, it just seems like I hear you.
Did Mrs. Reed prepare all this for what she had done, or?
I don't remember.
I don't remember
I do
either.
remember the amendment getting approved.
I remember too, yeah.
I remember the.
Even on that,
The first step.
that plat that I'm referring to, it even states on there, this is the area where you have your mound system. I don't know how it can be any clearer that those mound systems were approved and Ed Burkmeyer and Gail Owens signed off on them.
Well, I'm neither one of those people.
I do understand that.
But the way the plats are currently done is you have to indicate like a sewer reserve area, SRA. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've gotten all the permits for it, but you've indicated on your plat, there's enough land here to do that process in the future. That's how we're doing it now.
Okay. some of this stuff is probably why we have to subsidize those systems by 30%. 30% of the cost of that gets subsidized each year out of our budget, because it's such a challenge and this, I can assure, if we took all the allocations that we have available, we probably wouldn't be subsidizing nothing. But it's such a hassle to hook into it, if the slightest thing ain't just perfect. It makes no sense to me, but that's a lot of stuff.
Okay, I got it.
Oh,
It's
boy.
taken me a little while. Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan, page 1-19. This is section 1624, Amendment Review Process. And this is about a three-page, it's a three-page description of an amendment process. And it starts with step one is, this feeds really well into what Bill just said. When a developer is interested in developing a project which requires sewer and/or water allocation, he will first submit the concept plan to the Kent County Department of Planning, Housing, and Zoning. The PHC will then collect a concept plan review that will require at a conceptual level the feasibility, design, and environmental characteristics of the proposal based on the standards set forth in the ordinances and comprehensive plan, with the understanding that additional technical engineering, design material, survey work, and other subdivision documents will be submitted for review at later steps in the subdivision review process. So what I'm hearing and putting all this together is that's what Gail Owens and Ed Burkmeyer signed. That's what would have gone to Planning, Housing, and Zoning back in 91 or 93, whatever that was. And they signed off on it. Does that sound right?
Well, they signed off on a plat, which is actually pre-concept site plan. So it may have had some of that, and may have even been less.
And the plans will be scheduled for Technical Advisory Committee, that's our TAC, review, at which time other county and state agencies will be provided the opportunity to ask questions, make comments, and provide revisions. Step two, after concept plans have been reviewed by the TAC, the plans will be scheduled for a concept plan review by the Planning Commission, scheduling for review. I mean, this goes on, like I said, for 3 pages. So, and then preliminary plan is as drafted. And, I mean, it gives very specific, there's a total of 12 steps.
I know just as much as I did before we started. So best off just tell him no.
Well,
I don't think it
there's
is a no.
process.
It's just a process.
but we don't want, I don't think we want that state agency on our backs for,
Yeah, there's
We're
kind
misstepping.
of there's kind of like two separate things happening, where one is if the plat that you're mentioning is in fact valid, that's a component of the amendment that needs to go in. So regardless of that being valid or not, the amendment needs to be prepared and submitted, and the state will determine if that is
And
acceptable.
you're saying that he has to get an attorney or somebody to do this?
Yes.
That's my answer then.
Yep.
So, and the amendment required in the page above says any change to the status of a denied access line would require.
But I tell you what we really ought to do, we ought to turn a bunch of these allocations back in, because we don't want, we're in no hurry to hook up to them. And all they do is cost us money. Because we pay for every one of those allocations. We pay it through the operation and maintenance of that sewer plant in Rock Hall. We subsidize that, and to a great degree, we probably pay as much for that sewer plant in Rock Hall as what Rock Hall does. And we got all these allocations sitting there, and everybody wants them, and nobody will give them away. I think we ought to give them back.
Can I ask a question? If he starts the process, says I want to build a house, I want to get sewer, and it goes to the health department or whoever, and they say, yeah, you have to build this bound system, he goes, but there's a sewer line that by your rules say, if I have a private septic system, You'd rather I hook into that public line. Would that be a way to get there?
It's a denied access line. If this was not a denied access line,
Look,
he'd
and
have to hook into it. He
And
couldn't
I
have
tell
a
you,
private
that
system.
word denied access line,
Don't get
I
me
understand what a denied access line is. And especially if you're, and there's one going down Ponty Neck on Air Road that it's a farmland that's been put in preservation and it's not gonna be allowed to be built on. That's a denied access line. Where this is, the only thing that I know about that project is that there wasn't any additional growth built into it. In other words, they weren't gonna allow new places to come on unless they could prove this, that they already had permission to build there to start with, before the line was ever put down there. But I agree with you. I mean, they wouldn't let you build those mounds. They shouldn't even, if you went there to build those mound systems, they wouldn't let you build them. They'd say, there's a sewer line out front. Don't build a mound system or put in a septic system. Hook up to that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes sense to me, but maybe you and I should start a club together, John.
No, I don't think it's just you and him.
I'm the only one in this room not being paid to sit here.
All right, I've held us up long enough.
So what are we gonna have Mr. Hill do? I mean,
I'm gonna tell him, get a lawyer is all I can tell him. To do with some kind of something, I don't even know what he's supposed to do. To do air, water, and sewer or comprehensive sewer plan, redo air sewer plan.
We have a document, a 4-page document, the water and sewer
That's the one.
service request review process. I'll make sure they receive a copy of that today. That outlines the step-by-step of what they need to go through.
that's what I've got here.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think, I'm in support of giving him the allocations.
absolutely.
It's just that, there's a process, and I understand the common sense approach, but the common sense approach doesn't seem to be how things are done.
The reality of it is, the state put all of this into place to stop sprawl. Well, that doesn't really work for Kent County, and
Not
that's
at
the
all.
problem. One size does not fit all.
Like I said, if that's what we want to do, just shut it, we ought to sell the allocations to somebody, give them back to the town or something, because we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars each and every year to maintain that sewage treatment plant in Rock Hall. We the county. And it's based on the amount of hookups. The more hookups you have, Rock Hall, I'm gonna say, if there's 3,000 hookups out there and Rock Hall's got 1,000 of them and we got 2,000, we pay twice of the operation and maintenance for that plant. That's a big number. But that the state's gonna tell us to make it so I just disagree with it, but that's me. All right. What else we got? What else we got?
I have one little tiny item. It's not-
Thank you for a very good report,
thank
both
you.
of you.
And then
But don't go too far away.
Inspector Pearsall has an item.
I'm sorry, go, you help yourself.
Okay, thank you. I have a request from the Commission on Aging. They have made a recommendation for an appointment for a member on their board, and this is for an unexpired term. So the term would expire December 31st, 2025.
Questions?
I have no question. No question.
I'll make a motion to appoint the recommended candidate to the Commission on Aging to fill an unexpired term that will expire on December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Miss Bonnie Pearsall.
Alrighty, I just have the compliance check results for the 21 or none tobacco campaign for FY 2025. I completed 29 compliance checks to the tobacco establishments. 2 out of the 29 were non-compliant. They failed the compliance check. Citations were issued to both establishment with a $300 fine that was assessed. And they will have to have a recheck on these 2 establishments. There's 2 letters that are attached for your review, and you will, that they will need signatures, and an advertisement was placed in the Tidewater Trader congratulating the establishment that were compliant for properly asking for identification for my cadets that I sent in, and the advertisement is attached for your review. And that's all I have. Any questions?
I have none.
Okay, thank you.
Good work. Thank you.
Well, this is time for public comment or media review.
John King Public.
Yes, the town of Chestertown comes yard waste 2 times a week. I don't know where they take it.
Okay.
They used to take it by the water tower behind Boxer Manor.
Box of Manor,
Yep.
right, yep.
Right.
Yep.
You know what they do with it once it goes
I would
there?
almost bet you now, if they pick it up, they take it to Nicholson, I'd bet
That's
you.
what we've recommended to them in the
I
past.
know-
is
I know
just
we've asked them to do that.
Keep right on trucking down the road.
I know
Yeah.
they pick it up as a resident. They pick it up, and if branches are over a certain size, then you have to pay them. They come out and they see how many branches you have, and then they tell you how much money it is, and then you give them a check, and then they haul it off. I don't know where it goes once they take it.
That's all I have.
Thank you,
All
public
right.
comment.
Thank you for your input.
I waited 3 hours.
Now we need a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second.
Under the annotated code of Maryland, general provisions, Article 3-305B, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice and to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. We plan to discuss the legal opinion of the county attorney concerning potential litigation matters. And we are closing the meeting to discuss this topic because legal advice from the county attorney is private to the public and is meant to shield specific details of potential litigation.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. We are in closed session.